Hebrews 13, I will never leave you, nor will I ever forsake you. That doesn't mean that sometime in our Christian lives we don't feel it. Sometimes it kind of feels like God has left. But remember the last words of Jesus on earth. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So the reason Jesus was forsaken by the Father is so the Father would never have to forsake us. All right, let's put it all together. My God, even when you're suffering, still trust that God is your God. My God, why? It's okay to ask God why. Why have you forsaken me? And we just learned there's 6 reasons. Jesus was forsaken to bear God's wrath, to uphold God's righteousness, to bring us forgiveness, to show us God's love, and so that God would never have to forsake us. And I'll close with this. Years ago, a farmer brought his team of horses and his wagon into town. And he got down off the wagon, went into the store and did some buying, and then he came out and something riled the horses. They just start flying up and they tear down the street, and the farmer throws his arms around one of the necks of the horses trying to get the horse to stop, and finally got the horse to stop. But the man was bloody. The horses had trampled him. He's dying. And his friend runs up and says, why did you risk your life for horses and a wagon? And the man dying said, look in the back. And the man went up and looked, and here his little boy is asleep on the hay in the wagon. The reason Jesus was bloodied and tortured and punished, not because he had any sin, because he didn't. He was the perfect Son of God. It was so that we could be safe and saved. And I'm going to just share one last story here that comes to mind. There were 2 college buddies. They were good friends during college, but once they graduated, one became a lawyer and the other became a businessman. They didn't keep in touch, but years and years later, the lawyer had become a judge, and the businessman became quite wealthy, but he embezzled a large sum of money. He's brought into the courtroom, and who turns out to be his judge but his old friend? And some of the clerks knew about the situation and wondered, well, will the judge show favoritism or will he show justice? Well, time came for the sentencing. The man was found guilty. And when it came time to sentence his old friend, the judge said, you're getting the strictest penalty allowed by law. And he gave him a huge penalty that he had to pay. And people gasped. But then the judge took off his robe, walked around down from the bench, walked up to his friend and whispered, and I'm going to pay your fine. And the lawyer went free. That's what happened on the cross. You and I are guilty before God. We deserve to go to hell, but God loved us so much that God became a human being, went to the cross and paid our fine for us that he didn't have to do. He paid for our sins so we could be forgiven. My God, why have you forsaken me? So we could be saved. And I want to do one last thing. I love the old hymns in my old Lutheran hymn book, but near the top of my very favorite hymns is a hymn written in